It's time for a look inside the Phillies Mailbag, where we take your questions every Monday and post them up on the website, 973ESPN.com. And then we answer your questions
it's open right now.
live here on the Sports Patch.
It's an invitation.
97.3 ESPN. All right, we've had enough there,
I'm
Ringo.
having fun over here, man. It's the Beatles, don't you know?
Let's bring in Frank and get his take on some of the questions he had coming his way. The Phillies at the AllStar break, 42-48. Is that a success for you, Frank?
I would say so. I think we just wanted to see that some of the young players were getting some experience, starting to do some good things. And I think even though the record is a losing record at the moment, I think they've done just that. I think the Phillies have a clearer sense of who some of the young guys are that can help the team long term, and who some of those guys are that may not help the team long term. So I think this has been a successful first half for the Phillies.
All right, Frank, let's get into the mailbag questions here at the All-Star break and see what's going on out there. And one question is, we do have the All-Star break, and then afterwards we'll be looking at the trade deadline. We'll be looking at the September call-ups. But what about the story of Aaron Alther? What will the story for him be? Will he be back with the Phillies sometime soon?
Well, he began his rehab assignment, and it was only the Gulf Coast League. He did homer in his first game back, which is a positive sign. That wrist injury, there's really not that many players that have had success afterwards. Mark Teixeira would be the biggest name, and he struggled a little bit to come back, but Mark Teixeira was much older than Alther. So Alter's begun his rehab assignment, so that means that the team has 20 days to bring him up.
Looking at some of the other possibilities when this second half starts, you're also going to be thinking about J.P. Crawford, I guess, at some point. Don't know when he's going to come up, but when he does, will they try to get Galvis some playing time at shortstop, or is that Hernandez?
Well, I think what the Phillies are going to do is whoever the hotter player of Galvis or Hernandez is, they're going to be the starting second baseman. Right now, it appears that Hernandez is actually outplaying Galvis, and I'm surprised I'm saying that because a few months ago it seemed to be the other direction. But if you look at Hernandez's numbers, he's pretty consistent, batting as a lefty and batting as a right. His numbers are like 293 on the one side and 290 on the other. So that's pretty consistent. So he's been doing a good job in that regard. His defense has been good. We all know he's had some problems with the base path. His instinct just might not be that great in terms of being a base runner. But if you look at his numbers compared to Galvis, Galvis seems to get the big hit every once in a while. But Galvis has been a very poor right-handed hitter, and that's really hurt his numbers this year. Now he's batting in the 170s as a right-hand hitter, but 254 as a left-handed hitter. So the numbers tend to value Hernandez over Galvis, but I think you'll see Freddy get enough at bats. Yeah, they'll probably use Galvis like they used to use Galvis, where he gets some playing time at third base, he gets some at second base, backs up. J.P. Crawford plays a little shortstop, but really he hasn't done anything to. And really, he's gotten the bigger look when you're comparing him and Hernandez, and he's really done nothing to say that he deserves to be a starter in the major league. He's basically hitting about his career average, which is not all that impressive. He's hitting 234, I believe. So Galvis really hasn't done anything to say he earned the job. And once Crawford comes up, you'll probably see more of Hernandez because there's more evaluation needed for Hernandez, perhaps, than is needed for Galvis. And they'll just kind of go from there. And when we've seen Pete, like he's done in the outfield, the people that have played well have sort of worked themselves into the starting position.
Frank Klose is with us. The Phillies mailbag is open, and Mike is thinking about free agency on the mailbag. It says it's never too early to think about next season. And what does the team need to look at as far as adding somebody in free agency?
Well, if you look at the Phillies, what they did this year, I think this year is going to be a good indication about what the Phillies do next offseason as well. Now, the only major free agent the Phillies actually signed was David Hernandez for the bullpen, which, you think of all the other guys they brought in this year. They brought in Hellickson on a trade. They brought in Morton on a trade. those were guys that have 1 year left on their deal. And minor league free agents like Andrew Bailey, he worked out pretty well. But others, they gave other shots to people like Ernesto Frieri and Edward Mujica, who have not seen the Phillies in 2016. So they're probably going to do what they did this year, which is try to find some players that they might be able to trade at the trade deadline. And they're going to try to find some minor league free agents that may surprise you, if they're getting a lot out of Bailey, and even Bailey now is being linked to some trade rumors as somebody that the team could trade. So what I think the Phillies will do for the 2016-2017 offseason is what they did this year. Look for those bargains. Look for some people that they can flip. And the reason why is this free agent class is not that exciting as well either. So there's going to be a lot of teams going for just a few measly free agents. But if you turn the calendar to 2017-2018 offseason, there are all kinds of names. And this is setting up really, really good for the Phillies, because when you get to the end of next year, you're going to have your core in place pretty much. You're going to know who whether or not J.P. Crawford is indeed going to be your star shortstop. Franco will be in place. They don't seem to have a second baseman totally locked up just yet, but maybe that's a place where they can add somebody. But if you look at the names of agents that can supplement the Phillies core, it's really easy to get excited. So now Bryce Harper is the big name that everybody wants to look at, but just to name some of these players: David Price, Kershaw, Dallas Keuchel, Garrett Richard, Matt Harvey, Jose Fernandez, Manny Machado, Adam Jones, Josh Donaldson, A.J. Pollock, Adrian Gonzalez, Andrew McCutcheon, Joey Familia, Dylan Betances, Craig Kimbrell, Trevor Rosenthal. All right, you see where I'm going with this?
Oh, and on. Yeah.
So the Phillies' payroll is going to be really low, since they're going to have all the young guys in their rookie contracts or the first few years of their contracts. And they can look at their team and say, all right, here's what we have from our young guys. What do we need? And guess what? They have the money. They can go out and buy it.
So which way do you think is the path to success, free agency or developing the players?
Well, I think you need to develop your players, put your core together, and then when the core is about ready to start winning, you look at your roster and say, what can I grab on the free agent market that's going to make this complete? And like we saw with the Chicago Cubs, they added a couple free agents that they thought that were going to make to the team complete. They added John Lester before last year, and then now this year you're adding. They added Jason Hayward, for example, who's another big piece, that veteran bat. I mean, he hasn't had that great of a year, but he's sort of making that team complete. They added John Lack, so they're going to be like the Cubs in a couple of years, where they can basically look at the free agent market and say, all right, we're only a few pieces away, and we have some money, let's go buy them.
Yeah, Frank Klose is with us from 97.3 ESPN.com. Follow Frank on Twitter at Frank Klose, 973. That's close with the K. Frank, yesterday we had Jack McCaffrey on, and he was kind of ranking the rebuilds in Philly with the Sixers and the Flyers and the Phillies. He thinks the Phillies are doing it the best. The way that they've done this, you talk about free agency and kind of doing, developing their own players. It's amazing how two trades really stocked everything and changed. Like, some people thought this team wouldn't really be ready until about 2018 to get to where they are about right now. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like there's just a total different mentality. And then you throw in John Middleton. When they need that big free agent, it seems like they have the right mix going of developing their own players, and then boom, when we need that guy, they're ready for it. And I think at this All-Star break, that's something that you reflect on, that they only had 29 wins at this time last year.
And really, wins don't tell the whole story. Last year was just, it seemed to be at the end of the nightmare, and they're just still hanging on to some of the old guys, and they really couldn't admit yet that they weren't good enough. But now, really, a lot of credit goes to Ruben Amaro for his Cole Hamels trade last year. Certainly Matt Klentak with the Ken Giles deal. I mean, those two trades really have set this team up for success. And I think it's kind of a shame that they didn't start this sooner, because if you could have gotten something for Cliff Lee, back towards the end of his career when he still had some value, that they could have done a lot more. And I think part of the problem was they just loved their players so much. Imagine if instead of signing Ryan Howard to a long-term extension. They were the ones who traded their slugging left-handed first baseman. You know, the Red Sox gave up Anthony Rizzo to get Adrian Gonzalez the year before Howard's new deal started. So, you know, I think going forward they need to be a little bit more creative, be a little bit more open-minded to bringing in some young talent, because, you know, they seem to just sit back and say, all right, well, we already have a first baseman, we don't need to worry about that. But, you know, other teams are trading their first baseman, bringing in prospects, and then finding a way to get another one way or another. You know, a team like that can trade a good player for prospects and sign a free agent, and then you have a really good player, and then you have some prospects too. So I think going forward, they're going to really have to hone in on how you can keep that supply of young players going. And certainly, we saw with this draft, they seem pretty confident in their players towards the upper levels of the minor leagues. So they really stocked up on high school players to really start putting together the next wave. And so it shows they're thinking long term, which is really good.
Yeah, Frank is, of course, at the All-Star break here. The Phillies, Odubel Herrera is the one guy who will be representing the Phillies, and, you know, kind of an improbable guy as well. I mean, it kind of shows. And Frank, he's a guy that I would have to assume they didn't anticipate being an All-Star or being a guy. I mean, so I'm wondering what his future turns out to be. Like, you know, is he a guy that, like, okay, do they believe in him? You know what I mean? Like, do they really think that he is as good as he has shown, and do they have him in their long-term plans?
Well, I think he's a really nice player, and for right now, Roman Quinn was the big center field prospect that the Phillies had down in the minor leagues, but he can't stay healthy. So, you know, I think with a lot of the Phillies prospects, people have been counting their chickens before they're hatched, but who knows? Is Roman Quinn ever going to make it? You know, that's a real worry right now if this guy keeps getting hurt. So that would make Herrera the long-term solution in center field, and right now he's affordable, and he does a nice job. And so until somebody else steps up and takes the job, I think it's his. I mean, they're probably not going to, again, no free agents coming in next year, so I'm hoping that I think they're hoping that they're going to see steady play for him this year and next, and he could be the guy. The job's his. It's wide open.
Frank Klose with us. So, Frank, if I'm to understand this correctly, you're in Houston. Is that right?
I happen to be in Houston right now. Yes.
House of Pies, baby. That's my recommendation. I know you're always looking for places to go when you get to these different cities. So just ask anybody where a House of Pies is. You'll get a nice meal.
I sure will check it out.
And a slice of pie at the end.
That's right.
Now, is that pizza pie or regular pie?
Oh, it's pie. It's like apple pie, cherry pie.
I don't think other people around the country say pie for pizza.
No, not really. They just say pizza.
Yeah. Frank, enjoy Houston.
Yeah, Frank, have fun. Houston, we don't have a problem.
That's right. I haven't heard that a lot this week.
Just about every day.
Yeah. Don't worry. King of the cliche over there,
PT. Every this conference I'm at throws that in somewhere.
You didn't like my Beatles at the beginning? I mean, come on.
That was wonderful.
Frank, you'll get your check later. Thank you.
Take care, pal. At the All-Star break.
I got a set of money for that.
Frank Klose is live in Houston.